years since I went off to college. But um, yeah, here I did. Um, so anyway, so that's where the seed was planted in my heart that I would want to someday do something with this. Fast forward 8 years to last summer, I was walking with my neighbor, and she was telling me about her daughter started making clothes for her baby girl. And she was sewing everything. And I'm like, oh, she showed me pictures. I'm like, wow, those are so cool. And in that process of talking to her, I'm like, oh, the pillowcase dresses. So God brought that to mind. And I'm like, I told my neighbor about them. And she's like, well, that sounds cool. And I'm like, I know. How would I do any, I don't even know where to go with that. So we talked about it for a couple of weeks. And then I thought, you know what? I know the director of ministry to women at the church. Maybe I'll just send her an email. I met her last year when I was working with Gretchen and Ruth and the 2-year-olds. And so I emailed Joan thinking, well, maybe I'll hear from her in a couple days or next week. In 4 minutes, she responded and like, I'm excited. I can visualize women in the church who would love to do something like this. Let's meet. So we scheduled something for, I think it was, you were going out of town, for a couple of weeks out. And then um, the very next day after that email, I went and got my hair cut with a new hairstylist. Well, my friend's daughter-in-law was cutting hair, and with COVID, I wasn't going to my previous salon, so I went to, her name is Molly. Well, in the process, because this was all new, I'm just like sharing with Molly, I'm thinking about da 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 da. And she's like, oh, I think my Aunt Pam does something like that. This is Aunt Pam. I'm like, really? So, I mean, I didn't know Molly before. So she's like, yeah, let me text her. And so she's texting her while my hair's doing whatever it was doing. And she's like, yeah, she does something with Dress a Girl Around the World. I'm like, oh, okay. So I hadn't checked out that website. I was looking at some others. Um, so anyway, I'm like, do you think she'd be okay talking to me about what they do, how they do that, and what it all looks like? And she's like, texting. And she said, yeah, she would. So so I left a message for Pam, and a couple days after that. And then I started looking at websites, and I found a pattern for pillowcase dresses. So, and then I was telling Kathy, my friend Kathy Tusick at church, and she's like, oh, I think Madeline and I would really like to do something like that. And I'm like, okay. I said, well, I'm trying to do a sample because I have no idea what I'm doing. Um, and so I got some pillowcases, and we scheduled a time. They came over and we made some sample pillowcase dresses. Um, so next, I had a conversation with a family friend, Janet Fisher, who is also heading up this ministry. Had texted me saying, hey, let's catch up, see how things are, going. So we set up a time. We talked for quite a while and caught up on our families and our parents. And we were getting ready to hang up. And she's like, oh, by the way, do you know someone at church I could talk to? Because I just had someone donate 180 yards of material. And I prayed this morning and say, God, let me do something meaningful with this material. And I'm like, think I know what you're supposed to do with that. So I'm like, but we were thinking pillowcases, but okay, it didn't matter. I'm sure it's all part of it. So I mentioned, would you be interested in this? And she's like, absolutely, I'm on board. So the next thing I talked to Pam, and she's like, well, we don't use pillowcases. We actually use material. So it's like step by step by step. I'm just like, wow, wow, this is cool, Lord. So after that, when I was talking to Pam, she referred me to Mary Lamoth, who was kind of headed up the group that these women have been doing, and they'll explain about that later. So got more information from Mary. Joan and I met a couple times, and then we met with Mary and Pam, and then we set up today. So we got some structure, we got logistics, we got all those things kind of worked out, and we'll see how that works out next week or next month, but so far. But then in the process too, there's been so many other open doors along the way. People I've talked to about it. Another neighbor this week, I mentioned it to her, and she's like, um, she goes, seriously, I was looking for something to do involving human trafficking in some way to serve or to do something with my energy, she said. And I'm like, well, I think I have an idea. So I told her about this, and she's like, yes, I want to be a part of that, and her daughter as well. My sister-in-law, I again, just in passing, mentioned it to her when I stopped in her house for like 5 minutes in December. She's like, oh, I have extra time. I like to sew. I could do that. So she also is participating in this. So there are just so many. And Elvira is someone who she actually started up the Common Threads ministry years and years ago. And that's when I met with Joan. She's like, well, we could go under maybe the Common Threads ministry because, we're just talking, thought that would be cool. So I didn't know who she was talking to about who started it, but when in that process, she's like, I'll check with them and see if we can come under their umbrella and blah, blah, blah. So I go to community group that night, who is led by Bob and Elvira. And I'm telling that group, and Elvira's like, oh yeah, that's me. She called me. And I'm just like, wow, this is so cool. Just connections. And I kind of feel like God has just opened so many doors with this to bring it here. And every time I walk through a door, I mean, I literally just feel like he's opening them almost for me. I just step through it and it's like things are already set in motion, So it's like, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about what God might do in all of us through this ministry. And my hope is someday that we can meet some of these little girls that we'll be sending these dresses to or making these dresses for. So every step of this journey, I said, is God opening a door. My friend told me this week that when God calls us to something, he also equips us to do it. So I most certainly feel called to this ministry, yet the equipping I see is in all the people who have quickly jumped on board and with something to offer, whether it's enthusiasm or time or whatever it might be, to support this God adventure as well. I'm in awe of what God is doing here. I imagine each dress that we make, box up and deliver is a dress we pray over, knowing God already knows the name of the girl who's going to wear it. And that also gives me goosebumps. So with that, I want to introduce you to Mary Lamoth, who will share more about the Dress a Girl Around the World organization, what they are doing to make a difference in the lives of these young girls vulnerable to human trafficking.
Thank you. My name is Mary Lamoth, and I've been with Dress a Girl for 3 years. And how I got started was I love to sew, but I didn't really have anybody to sew for. And so I'm playing around on the computer one day, and I found this organization. And I thought, this is something I might like. And on the website, it also showed you the locations to have the sew-ins. And 3 years ago, there was Vernon Hills and Tinley Park. And Vernon Hills is run by a lady by the name of Sydney Solinsky, excuse me. And she is an ambassador. And then the one in Tinley Park is I don't remember her last name because I didn't work with her, but she is another ambassador. And what the ambassadors do is that the missionaries come to them and they give the dresses to the missionaries, and the missionaries hand carry these dresses. Nothing is shipped out. And so that's how I got started. And Sydney, she's at St. Mary's, and of course, nothing's going on right now, but she has about, she does it once a month on Sundays from 1 to 5, and she has 75 to 100 sewers that come in. So we have the lady sewing, we have another lady that does quality control to make sure these dresses are the way they're supposed to be made. And the quality control person says, I don't like this, so she takes it over to the ripper outers. So everything is, excuse me. And then we go to another table and we put labels on the dresses. We measure them to make sure that the dresses are the right size. We put labels on them, hang them up, and then Sydney takes them home, puts them in boxes, and waits for the missionaries to come. The program was launched in 2009 by the founder was Rachel Egham Senders, and there's a picture of her on the poster board I made. And since that time, 2 million dresses have been sewn by volunteers all over the world, United States, all over the world. And these dresses go to 81 countries as well as the United States. So After I worked with Sydney for a while, I thought it was quite a little drive for me. It wasn't too bad going, but coming home because I ran into the Wisconsin traffic and it was just really too much in the winter. So I asked her, I said, I would really like instruction on how I can lead a group. And she put me into quality control. She said, if you're going to lead a group, you really need to know what to look for and correct it if need be. So I ended up leading a group in Hampshire at Stitching on State. And this is where I met Pam Bellin. Pam was in my group, and another lady here, Barb Bennett, was in my group. And until the pandemic closed us down. So um, right now, the dresses, they're not going anyplace. They're in boxes. I have a couple hundred at home. Sydney must have tons of them. And, but what I'm doing now is I don't want to lead a group because I will go back to Vernon Hills when the world opens up and I will help her get all these dresses ready to go because there's going to be a lot of them. So anyway, if you want to check out the poster board for some of the pictures and then the dresses we've made, and also the labels, you'll see a little label that has to go on the pockets, and that the reason for the labels is to deter human trafficking. And the human trafficking, it's a deterrent, and these people, these would-be traffickers, they know that somebody's looking out for these girls. And another thing too, before we get started, Rachel has on her website every month, she's got tips and a newsletter. And make sure you read this because sometimes, because there's so many sewers all over the country that there's questions people may have, they ask her, everything's outlined in the monthly newsletter. So Pam, is there anything I missed?
I can think, does anybody have any questions so far? No? Oh.
It's not on the instructions, but it's www.dressagirlaroundtheworld.com. And I believe I know there's flyers on the table and it has that information on the flyers. It's really a fun organization. It's fun making these beautiful dresses. The thing is, we don't know where the dresses are going. So you may see one of your dresses on a little girl on the website, or you may not. But so we have no idea. The missionaries come in and they say, we're going to take 100 dresses. She sends them off to the missionary, and that's it. Now, if anybody would ever like to be a missionary and go on these trips, you can all do that. So it'd be kind of fun to go in there, and if you'll see on the website how these missionaries come in and how they're putting the dresses on the little girls, it's really kind of neat. So with that said, what we're going to do is I am going to use a rotary cutter and size up or cut straight the fabric that we're going to use to demonstrate with. And I suggest using a rotary cutter because you're going to get a really nice clean cut. Okay.
If you have recommendations for specific brands of anything?
Good question. No, I really don't. But one of the things I found out, the Olfa blades, if you all are familiar with quilting, if not, I'll show you. The blades you use, they're like $5 or $6 a piece. They last quite a while. But I thought, I'm going to go on Amazon, and I thought, oh wow, there's 6 of them for $25. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty good deal. I ordered them. I waited and I waited and I waited. Finally, I canceled the order, and then the next day they came in. And these Olfa cutters, they did not last long at all. And Olfa is a real good brand. So I would stay away from ordering them on Amazon. I'm not sure where they're coming from, but it took like 3 or 4 months. So I would stay away from that. Hobby Lobby has them, and Hobby Lobby and Joann's has them. And Hobby Lobby, they have sales all the time, 50% off, or if you look on your phone, 40% off on one item. That's all the time. And Joann Fabrics will match it. They'll match the price. So, but yeah, and also your rotary, the mats and the rulers.
How many sewers are out there? Is everybody a sewer? Okay. You you don't look like, did you raise your hand? Yeah, yeah. No. You're an ironer. Oh, okay.
Oh, oh,
Okay.
I have one more thing that I keep thinking of things to talk about is that I will take all your dresses and they'll go to Sydney when St. Mary's is not opened up yet. So as soon as she gets opened up, all the dresses that I have will go to St. Mary's. And what we do over there, it's really kind of neat. You people don't do it, we do it. They have panties and bracelets. The bracelets are made, there's a whole group of ladies making these beaded bracelets. The panties are donated, and we take the panty, we fold it, stick the bracelet around it, and put it in the pocket. And then for the little girls, we have little tiny little animals or little dolls that a local organization makes, and we stuff those in the pocket. Now, not every group does this, but it's kind of nice because the little girls get some panties, which they probably don't have too many of them. And so that's something that Sydney's organization does. So anything else? Anybody? Okay, so I guess we'll get started on cutting the fabric and Pam will do the sewing.
That's what I'm told.
Did everybody pick up the guidelines for making a dress on the table?
Do you want me to turn the mic on for this?
Yeah.
Okay. You might have to like.
That's it. When the light's green, I think it's on.
You guys hear me? Oh, geez. I don't need a mic.
Can you hear me? Can they hear me?
I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
All right. First of all, you want to wash and iron your fabric and then cut it a yard or buy a yard. Start with a yard of fabric. Go home, wash it, cut it, and then iron it. And then we're going to cut it to make sure everything's straight. Now this here.
And it's folded selvage to salvage.
Yeah, salvage to salvage. And my notes here. All right, now this piece, I washed it, cut it, and it is 42.5 inches wide. And the length at this point is 38. So that'll give you an idea. This will probably make a 8 to 9 size dress, or you can always cut it down and make a smaller one too. Okay, get what I need. This is the ruler. Get that lined up. I have to go up the table.
This part is just getting rid of your salvages, so you're just dealing with just the material part of it.
I brought another blade because this one looks like it's getting. Now, we cut the selvage, now we're going to cut the ends.
So you're using 2 mats?
Well,
because one of them is not large enough?
Correct, correct.
So what recommended mat size would you get?
Well, I have a big one at home, but I didn't have any, I had so much to carry, I didn't bring it. But I have done this. What size, Pam? With this one?
24 by 36 or something?
36 is,
yeah,
I think, what
that's
I
what I
have at
got.
home, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
In fact, I think I'll turn it this way, so cut it this way. I know these smaller mats.
You can fold the fabric too if you want to get it to the, to double it up to cut it. I've done that.
Okay, let's see now. Get it cut as straight as you can.
So this is just giving you a straight edge to measure from. In the instructions, it tells you different lengths, the cut length and the finished length on the dresses. So you'd be working with the cut length at this point to get the size that you want. There's width and length. So just because the material is folded doesn't mean that's going to be the width that you're going to use.
Correct, correct. Yeah, you can make it, you just start out with the yard 42, 44, and then you can decide what size you want to make from there. Should have changed my blade, Pam.
I didn't bring one. I brought a good
Well, I have
scissors,
one,
but
let's move it over here. Let's line it up here. Okay. That doesn't sound very good.
cut.
All right. So there's your piece, all cut nice and straight. So, let's see now what the width and the length is after I cut it. The width should be pretty much the same. Okay, the width is 42, so I only took like a half of inch off, and then the length will be about 37, 42 by 37.
So one of the things that I hate talking into this microphone. One of the things that gets in my head when I'm doing this is that when you measure from the fold to the selvage, it's only half of your finished length.
Correct.
So, rather than, because on there it'll give you it'll say 34 or whatever. Well, on this it's going to be 17. So I'm just mentioning it because I do have to think through that sometimes.
So this dress here, you could make a size, what did I say that length was, 33? You could make a size 8 with this dress. A size 8, or you could cut it smaller, whatever you want to do.
So the cut length on your chart should show that the cut length for a size 8 is 33 or less.
Correct. Yeah, if you look on that chart, I've made mistakes where I looked at the cut width or the finished length.
Width, yes.
Yeah. So, okay, so on this particular dress, let's say it's a size 8, 33 cut length, and then your finished length is going to be 30. That's after you get the hem in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So now Pam is going to be, let me get this out of the way here.
You want me to do this before you get the finished length on it?
Huh?
You want me to do this before you put the finished length? Or are you happy with the finished length?
Oh, I'm fine with it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let me just get this out of the way.
So the seam on these, oh, what's the technical name for this?
It's a French seam.
French seam.
Okay, one seam, French seam, or you can do a seam if you have a serger, but the seam has to be finished. And if you look at these dresses over here, they're all French seamed, and they look really nice, and they're not going to come apart. And the French seam is very, very easy. And there's an instructions, I think Joan gave you instructions how to make a French seam, but there's also instructions on your instructions.
So it's wrong sides together, which sewers have to think about, I think. Yeah. And the total seam, the total allowance for the seam can't exceed a 1/2 inch, right? Or 5/8.
Yeah, okay, well, she's gonna sew a 1/4 of an inch seam.
Right.
She's gonna sew that with the
Wrong sides
wrong
together.
together.
Okay.
We're not used to doing it
Which is
that way.
just the first step of a French seam.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes. I just got to line this up. I don't like the way it's. Okay, for the second part of this, you're going to turn the whole dress right sides together. My fingers were working.
So are you following the instructions step by step as they're typed out on the sheet or? Okay.
Yeah?
Okay, perfect. You can kind of follow along. And feel free to ask questions if you.
Is the iron on, Mary?
It will be in a minute. Okay, now Pam.
I typically press this before
sorry?
I typically press this before I sew it. Do you? No? I can do it without pressing it.
Okay, so anyway, where are you, Pam? Are you turning it over now?
I turned it over, so it's right side to right side. Typically, I would press this seam open. Since the iron isn't on, I'm just going to kind of hand press it. But I would lay it flat. I would actually take it. Are you putting it on? Yeah. Okay. I don't think I have enough hands for this. So typically I would take it and lay it so the seam is flat against like that, and then press that open one side or the other to sew it again. And excuse my one shoe, but I can't sew with these shoes on. Holy cow. I think It's pretty impressive. It's just making sure the seam lays to one side or the other. Otherwise you're not going to be able to make your second full length seam. And I quilt, so I'm a presser.
That's good.
That's where this comes from,
That's good.
isn't it?
Cute.
And it's really warm. It really gets hot.
You know, I just bought that for today, and I really like it. Is the steam coming out? It will be in a little bit.
Okay, you're supposed to be looking at the dress, not the iron. Oops.
You like it? Okay, one thing about the seam, I'm going to tell all of you, it has to go on the side of the dress or I won't take it. And the reason they do that is because it's less wear and tear when it's on the side. And it looks nicer.
Okay.
Pam is going to be sewing now. She pressed it, and she's going to be sewing a 3. She pressed it. She's folding it, and now it's a 3/8 inch seam.
You guys need to stop us to ask a question or whatever. Yeah. Rather ask it while we're doing it than later on.
You're not back stitching it when you get to the end. Is that-
Because it runs off.
Okay.
And that's enough usually to hold it.
Okay.
When you start it, it's easier on the machine not to start it right at the end. It doesn't bunch up. So that's the reason I go backwards. So where's the camera? So can you guys see that finished seam on the inside? There's no ruffles, there's no nothing.
Yeah, you don't want any of the salvages or any threads or anything to show.
And so when it's laundered, there's not going to be any fraying that'll hold its shape and its size. So that's the reason it's done.
Let's pull it a little bit closer to the.
Where do you want it? Here?
You know, Pam just mentioned when it's laundered, the reason we use 100% cotton or cotton poly blend is because there is no way that these young people can wash their clothes other than a creek. There are no
You got it?
washing machines, none of that stuff. Possibly in the United States, yes, but when you talk at the third world countries, they wash them at the creek and they lay them flat out to dry.
I think to mention the reason they're so particular about how these are put together, you know, the quality of them is that this is the only dress that girl's probably ever going to have in that size. So you want it to be, you know, pretty near perfect, you know, so it lasts for one thing. And yeah, she doesn't have a bunch of them hanging in her closet.
Yeah, and that's what's so nice too about that French seam, because it's not going to come out or come loose. Now we're gonna cut the armholes now.
Watch your foot there.
Okay, the seam is on the side, so we're good to go with that. And now you have your templates in the, I believe it's the last page.
Mary, and here it says the hem at first, is that, are you gonna?
No, it's, you can hem the dress. You can hem it first, but I don't do it, do you?
No, I don't
It
do it
does- no, you
first.
don't have to do that.
3 and 4, you can do them in any
Yeah, you can. Okay, so you want to get your template out. Now, this is how I do it. Some of you might want to make nicer templates. I just use the guide, I pin it and I cut around it.
We have a question from the Zoom crowd. Let me just read it here.
Yeah, Elise has a question, my sister-in-law. So do you prefer the French seam over something?
I'm sorry?
There's a question coming in from the Zoom audience.
This is right. I get nervous doing this. Yeah. And then I'll flip it the other way.
Fold, yep.
Make sure it's on this. So I am using the size 8-9 large template because that's the size of the dress it's going to be.
Mary, the question is, do you prefer a French seam over using a serger?
It doesn't really matter.
It's more about what they're comfortable with. I mean, if they're okay with the serger.
Okay. You want to line it up. You want to line the template right next to the French seam.
I saw you do it.
Huh?
I saw you put them there.
So that's the template for a size 8 dress, right?
Yeah.
Can you guys see that? I can't see the thingy. Okay.
There's one armhole. And then you want to flip it over to make sure that the fold on the template is on the fold of the dress.
So the first one was on the French seam that you just made.
Correct.
The other one will be on the fold, the other side of the dress.
I usually do this a lot quicker at home.
Not used to people staring at you.
No.
And I usually talk to myself, so.
But these dresses are so much fun. Okay, so there's the templates or the armholes. And what Pam's going to have to do is the side where the French seam is on, because I cut into that seam, she's just going to have to back stitch it. So when you put on the
Bias tape.
bias tape, there you go, Pam.
Okay. Are we at the bias tape? Is that what we're doing next?
No,
Oh.
not yet.
Okay. And if you're a quilter, you save these, just saying.
Okay, so I guess, okay, now that we've got, we're ready to put the casing on. where the elastic will fit through.
Mm.
So. I brought my ruler, step five.
I have a ruler, a small one.
You know what I use? I use yardsticks, I use everything. So anyway, now let's see here, where does it say, creating the casing?
Step 5.
Okay, fold over 3/4 inch, because we're gonna use the 3/8 inch elastic because of the bigger size. So we're gonna fold over 3/4. First, you want to fold over 1/4.
He's got it taped to this chair and it's all very precarious, so I don't want to drop the camera.
Should we move the ironing board over here?
Yeah, is that possible to move the ironing
sure,
board here?
absolutely.
Okay.
Does anyone else want to dress in their lap while she's doing this? So you can kind of look at the seams?
Yeah. There we go. Actually, Mary, if you could go on the other side, because you're blocking the camera.
Okay.
And even if you've got your back to them, they can see it up there.
Oh, okay.
So folding over the top, you call that the casing?
We're doing the casing, yeah, and you want to fold over 1/4 inch.
It's the edge. You're gonna fold it again to
Yeah,
make the
and then
full
you're gonna fold it
casing.
again.
Okay.
Fold it. They say 3/4. I end up doing it about 1 inch. I don't, it's only what, 1/8 more. Let's see.
What's that little ruler?
Is that your elastic there?
See, I'm very notorious. I need what do you call those belts?
A tool belt.
That's what I need. I lose stuff all the time. All right. So now, because of the size of the dress, we're turning it under, again, 3/4 inches. And sometimes it's kind of hard to get it exactly 3/4. Actually, I think I kind of did the first time.
Where'd you get that little iron?
I bought it at Walmart. Now, I don't know why I'm not getting, maybe I'm running out of water. Because the steam works.
While Mary's ironing, I can tell you, this is my technique for cutting them out. Can you see it down there? So I cut, this is the dress fabric, whatever the size would be, and then the pockets and the binding and the elastic per the size. And I usually do fun stuff on the pockets because it's really the only part you can do fun stuff on. So.
So you cut all of that out before you start sewing?
Yes, yeah. And then I label it with the size. I just have a scrap piece of paper and a whatever to hold it together. And I usually cut out one for each size before I start sewing them all. And then I'll do like all the pockets first because you can't do them after they're on the dress. And then go through and do something on each, the same thing on each dress. So I keep in mind what I'm doing and get it right. And when you're done, you end up with, I don't know, 7 or 8 dresses. I can't remember the sizes, but it works for me. You guys can do it any way you want, but that works for me.
I have a question. Where does the Dresser Girl sign come
It's, Mary has them,
What's that?
this little tags for Dress a
The
Girl.
labels.
They're up on the table up there.
Yeah, there's some up on the table, and also you can order them through Dress a Girl. They're like $10 or $12.
And that goes on the packet before the packet goes on the dress. And it's always in the same spot. I'm not going to say the spot because I'll get it wrong. So Mary will tell you later.
We'll sew the pocket on the dress first, and then everybody will see what we're talking about, right?
So this is the back side of the casing.
Yeah,
Okay.
front and back.
Front, back.
The elastic is a little shorter, I think, on the
Front.
front.
I cut those for you too.
Yeah, I see that.
All right.
Okay. Can I have your pin thing so I can drop the pins back in there? Thanks.
Okay, one of the things, she's gonna sew the casing now. But and then after the casing, we'll do the hem. But I want to say with this casing, don't put it. It's gonna be a lot harder. It's gonna be a lot harder to get those pockets on right.
This first stitch is like right next to that fold. Trying to give as much room in that casing as you can. And you want to make sure to catch the fabric underneath.
Sewing the,
Is that what people will find? I'm thinking about the people that are not here in person, the instructions that they'll find on the website.
Well, they're not going to find them on the website.
Oh.
She took them down because they've changed so much over the years. And so
Let me
when,
email a copy of that.
yeah, this is good. Okay. Exactly.
And then the other side's just done exactly the same way. I backstitch these seams though, because you're going to be playing with the edge to get the elastic in. So it's a little bit better if it's kind of a little more solid. Okay,
So you got that done?
I got that done.
All right, so Pam has, we're all done with the casing, and now we're going to, we are going to do the hem. Once again, it's 1/4, and then it's 2 inches. I don't know, Pam, I probably could have used a bigger ironing board.
Oh, laughing in this thing is probably really loud.
Anytime you want to mute it, just press that button on the bottom. But
Is this,
if you don't
is
want,
this the only way it goes to the video though?
or that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So same way we turned it on right there. See that?
Okay.
You can mute that.
I know. So at Joann's, they have these buttons that look like flower pots. So I'll put like a flower pot at the bottom and then put like green rickrack and then sew a flower button, on to make it look like a flower on the pocket. And there's buttons up there for you guys to take if you want a few. There's flowers in there. There's elastic up there for you guys to cut, fabric, and I believe lace also.
I brought some lace.
Yeah.
I have.
You could sew that on the pocket. I tend to sew it on and wrap it around the back. And then if it's thin enough lace, I'll actually tack it down along the bottom. So it's really on there. It's not floppy. I'm trying to think of other things I've used for decorative things on the pockets.
Have that like curly ribbon or
The rickrack?
like flowers on there.
Yeah.
It has like a frog.
Oh yeah, the appliques. So if you go shopping and they have like the already done appliques that you can buy in the package, just again, keep it simple. They don't like, anything that's American or patriotic. An animal is fine. I suppose like a little crown if you can find, something really girly. I just keep telling myself this is the only dress they're going to have at the age they're at. So I think whatever you can do to it to just make it special, I think is important.
Well, like this has the lace and then she put the button down here. That's cute too.
Oh, yeah, it's fun to, you can do anything you want. It's very creative.
Yeah. And ask for donations. I've asked a lot of my friends, that sew just scraps of things, can do a, pocket or two on a dress or, whatever. And I've gotten a lot of donations for it.
I think I made about 20 pockets with the labels on it, just because I had all this fabric. And I can bring that next time, so if anybody wants anything, they can have it.
Are you guys feeling good about starting these up on your own at home? You feel confident with what we're saying and how it's going? Yeah,
Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Especially when you see it done, that helps me a lot.
yeah.
And all this material over here is ready to be taken home and for whatever you want, for whichever dresses you want to start. Mary brought some that had labels. Janet spent most of December and January washing and cutting and sorting all this other material. So these are they yard? Yeah. A yard each.
Okay, so this is the hem, and I start the hem by the seam, because that's gonna end up on the side of the dress, and it's just bulky already, so, you pointing at me? No. Oh. Back stitch that first. We'll just go around and. material folded here on the hem. I gotta get that flattened out. Okay. Just talking to the dress.
Sometimes, you know, it's like, oh my God. No, you don't.
And I just overlap when I'm done. Back up there a little bit, I guess. Okay.
Okay, the hem is done.
Yeah, that stitch, that it just sounds funny on this table. I didn't think the stitches were that good. But yeah, we're okay.
So now, here it is, we've got the hem on. Okay, so now the next thing is the fun thing, the pockets.
So I'm gonna change, I think I'm gonna change color for thread for that too.
So cute.
Yeah, because are we gonna do this next then, after the pockets, the binding?
Yeah, we gotta put the elastic, you remember? The pockets
Oh,
and then
yeah.
the elastic, and then that's the final step.
Okay,
Okay, there's two ways, and it's in the instructions to cut the pockets. You want to cut them 6 by 6. And, you can cut them 6 by 6, two pockets. And, or you can do a 6 by 12. And then what you do with a 6 by 12. And then you sew around it, and of course you have to leave it open to turn it. I'm doing it. Yeah, right sides together. Yeah, absolutely. So here's your 6 by 12, so all the way around it leaves an opening, and then the two pieces, 6 by 6, that big.
I'm trying to do it in front of the camera. Can you do that again? Just like right here. While you
With
talk.
these two.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think these people can't see you when you're up there.
Okay.
And I can't move the camera.
I'm okay right here.
Down here.
Okay.
Put, see, there's there you go.
Okay. All right. For those of you who didn't see, you can do a 6 by 12, right sides together, sew it all the way around, leave it a 2-inch or so, 1.5, 2-inch opening to turn it. And then the other way. A 1/4 of an inch.
So you're gonna sew all the way around,
But you have to leave an opening.
leave an opening because so you can turn it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm. So that would be the 2 pockets here, and then once this is done,
So it
all the way around, yeah.
even on the fold.
Yep.
okay, what am I doing now? Sewing these on?
Okay.
Oh,
So the next step is we're going to put the pockets on. And this is really easy. Where do you want me to stand?
Just so you're, what you're doing.
Let me get- Sure. Okay, so what you want to do is take the dress from the top and fold it all the way to the hem, all the way to the bottom. So it looks like this. Okay? And then you want to flip it over. And right where you flip it, this is like the point where you want to sew the fold is where you want to sew your pocket on. And you can press it, that helps.
The old rules were measuring, and it was just horrific. This is.
Yeah, it was 2 inches this way, 2 inches that way. So things change a lot. Okay, so pocket is made. And you want to get it pretty much close to the seam. I want to get it over here. French seam.
The decoration on here is just, what is it, not
Gross grain.
gross grain. So just the rolls, you can buy, just sewn top and bottom.
I'm having a hard time getting hold of that French seam.
This?
Okay.
So when I do my pockets, Mary, I take one of the cutter things, slide it up from the bottom of the dress, and then you can pin through on that one layer
That's a great idea.
without getting the back involved. Yeah,
You want to show them how to do that?
sure.
One of the rulers?
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I never thought, see, Pam's got all these ideas.
Well, that was one. So we're folded in half, and then on the front,
Oh, you're totally blocking
Oh.
the camera. Sorry.
you want me around on the other side?
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I'm glad
I'd
you
rather
said-
hobble around with my no shoe thing. Now am I on there? Okay. So the pocket is going to go along this line, but you can take this ruler and stick it between the 2 layers of dress right up to where you want it, and then pin it on. And you're not pinning through. Can you guys see that? You got to,
Never thought of that. That's a great idea.
you can get that ruler really on that, in that seam, and then you can get right up to that fold where you want to be. And then just pin it, and you're not going through extra layers of fabric. And then you just slide it over, go to the fold on the other side, oops, up to that top fold.
Oh, this, Pam, we got this. That's
Oh, on the
good.
wrong side,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll do that again. Oh, wait, this one goes over here. Yeah,
It's the right side facing. No, not facing. On the girl, right hand side on the girl. Yeah.
okay, so. And this is the seam side, so you got to get over that French seam
Right.
on the inside of the dress, or, yeah. Still,
These buttons I
Hang
put
on.
on that I got at Joann's, I really like those. They're flat, they're fabric, they're flat.
oh, yeah. See, it worked okay with the wrong pocket. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there you go. Wait, gotta take my microphone.
Switching out threads, the thread color or?
I do if it's real, I mean, if you're doing pastel to pastel, I don't really worry about it. But if you're doing red, I always use white thread. It's gonna show. And I'd rather not take away from the finished look by just the threads. So.
That's what I do too. I like using, the coordinating thread.
Use the red color of the pocket. Right, okay.
See if that worked. Yay.
I learned something new, Pam. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Included in the cost of admission.
I know, right? Getting nearer to my brain down there somehow.
So what step are we on? We are on the eighth number, bottom pocket, please keep it right there.
So then it's just positioning yourself and getting this pocket sewn on. I know there's different ways to do the corner. There's that like little triangle thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that to sew a pocket on. I just go back and forth on the top side and on the other side too. My machine will do it. Oh, come on.
As close to the edge as you can get.
Yeah,
okay?
and then just pivot it on that corner. Isn't being nice on the thickness today.
So are they married doing together right now or no? You're still sewing at home?
We're sewing at home in Sydney. Now, are you open for services?
They've got it, so every other row is used for the first one, and then the alternate row is the second one. On your party system, given 3 pieces of paper, lock them up. So you're doing a pretty good job. You're required to wear a mask until you sit down, and then we have a second overflow in here, satellite service for people that want to keep their mask on the whole time. Yeah. That's what our right.
Well, this could have been a little bit closer to the edge.
All that fabric that maybe the ladies won't all do.
Yeah, yeah.
How much material do you buy to make those dresses?
I don't buy it all at one time. I just, like, if I'm going shopping or whatever, I'll look in the remnant section first. And just buy a yard. I always just buy a yard or whatever I'm buying. If it's on sale, I might buy a couple yards of the same fabric. So I just kind of buy it till I have enough.
Okay,
It's, there's no system to that at all. And then sometimes I get donations. Yeah, it's just kind of random.
Sometimes somebody might give you a little piece of fabric, like this one little dress I made over here. It's only about this big. It decides to come on, but I use the fabric, so. Okay, Pam, you got that done?
I do.
There's the pockets. And so now, I guess Pam, you want to put the elastic in,
Mhm.
and I have it marked.
This
Well,
was the,
the back is longer anyway.
yeah.
Okay, now we're going to insert the elastic. If you look on the dress size, 6 to 9, you need a 1/2 inch. And the front will be 7 inches cut, and the back will be 8 inches.
My fingers aren't working. There we go.
And we're using a pin to thread that elastic through.
You can also buy fabric at Walmart. They already have it cut into yardage and you just pick up a yard here and there or 2 yards here and there. I looked the other day, I wasn't real impressed, but sometimes.
You know, I bought fabric at Hobby Lobby for $2 a yard. Nice stuff in the bins.
So when I'm threading it through, when I get the end to the here, I always just sew it because otherwise it's just frustrating. Try to pin it and everything else. It's got to be sewn anyway. So
Really, to put the elastic in after the pockets?
After the pocket.
Okay.
Yeah.
So step 6 really should be
Yeah.
after pockets on your guidelines.
Like these instructions have been changed so much, and it makes sense though to put the pockets on first. Glad I remembered that pan.
I know, I think, oh, I do have some in my pin cushion, but
Also on the website, you can email Rachel. She always gets back to you. And if you want to mail dresses to her, you can do that. The only thing is that she charges $1 per dress. And I was told the reason she does that, now I didn't hear it from her, is because sometimes when the dresses are just mailed, she's got to do a lot of ripping out. She's not happy, and so she figures I'll charge $1. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She boxes them up.
Yeah.
And deliver them.
So we could collect dresses here at the church. I'll just take them and we can get them to you that
Yeah,
way.
or I could come in and pick them up too. Once you get the elastic on, it's looking more like a dress.
To do that before the ties. The ties,
Oh,
the
yeah,
last
the
thing.
ties is the last thing.
sure, I don't know why not.
think I have the dress.
There was a
here.
question whether decorative stitching, if your machine has that ability, is allowed on the pockets, and the answer is yes. You can really make it fancy and fun.
I may take a lesson from you about how to do that. My machine does it, and
I've done it quite a bit, because I have all those little icons, and it looks real nice.
okay, so that's the elastic, and it kind of puckers it up and makes it look like a dress. Now's the fun part.
The fun part. Okay.
That's sarcasm.
Okay, bias tape. Make sure it's double wide, because I bought some single wide one day and I couldn't figure out how come this thing wasn't working. But make sure it's double wide. And this particular dress, you want to cut your bias tape 36 inches. And what I like to do when you're unwrap it, I like to just kind of press it, just to get kind of the wrinkles out of it. And then what I do next, I divide it in half, and I divide it in half, so I know where it's going to, the starting point underneath the arm. And then on each end, I open up the bias tape, and I fold it in. Okay? So Pam, are you ready?
Sure. I don't do the ends. Do you do the ends for? No, you do the ends when you're done sewing it on.
I do it when I'm done.
Yeah, okay. So you open it up all the way on the one side. Can you, are you guys seeing this? I can't, wait. Okay. So you open it up all the way on the one side. That halfway mark that you marked when you folded it is going to line up with your seam, with your stitching on your seam.
Now, Pam, can I ask you, how are you doing that? I mean, I don't know. Are you starting from the end?
I start from the center and go out
Okay,
every
okay,
time.
Okay,
Yeah. Because I found it scrunches.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And then there's a bias here, a little bit of one. I kind of give it a little bit of a tug. I want to get as much out of that as I can and pin it. And then I take that all the way to the one end. And all you're doing is sewing in the armpit. You're not doing anything about the ties yet.
Correct, correct.
And then I go the other way. And pull on that bias again. Let me know when you guys, if you can't see it. And just get it pinned in there. I'm a big pinner. I'm sorry if it's annoying. Some people I know don't pin at all, and I can't handle that. I know. And some people don't care that I have red hair and I'm telling them what to do, so. Okay. So when I sew this, then I'm going to start in the center and go to the neck or front or whatever, and start in the center and go to the other way each time.
And why do you do it that way?
Because you can, I find it easier to be able to pull on the bias that way.
Okay.
And I don't know, it just
Well, I
makes
think-
sense to me as far as keeping everything level and not puckering it. You know, if you're sewing one way, you're pushing everything one way.
And you want to make sure you catch the fabric to the bias tape.
So you're going to sew on that fold line that your bias tape, where your bias tape was folded, which, I mean, it stays there. That bias tape doesn't lose its fold. And I kind of give it a bit of a tug when I'm doing this, just to get that kind of armpit room in there, you know, get that bias to give me what it can. some pucker in there from the gathering from the elastic. Get that out of there. And then I usually just run over the top section with the and back stitch there. This, I think we also had some direction on the back stitch and do a good job because there's a lot of wear and tear, you know, with them, you know, taking it on and off, and the ties really get used. So I'm going to overlap that other stitching. Get my big head out of the way. And kind of line that back up a little bit and give it a little tug. Get that bias going. At home, the pins are usually on the floor, so they just go flying everywhere. Put the needle down, there's crinkles in there from the gathering that I want to get out of there. I think I did it. Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, yeah, I did. It's fine. Yeah. So I got it sewn in on the one side. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to flip it over. See, make sure you guys can see this. So it's sewn like that. You already have, it kind of folds itself and you flip the bias tape over. And that creates your finished arm piece or armhole there.
Now, when Pam does the final stitching on the bias tape, you can do regular stitching or you can do a zigzag. That's okay. Now, what I do, and you can do whatever you want, I like to use the same color as the bias tape because sometimes you're going to make a mistake and it's not really worth carrying out. I mean, it's not too big of a deal. You can kind of work around it. And if it's the same color, it's not going to be noticeable. If you use white on red or something, anything, you can't really delete it.
So white on red would be for true professionals.
I don't know who that is, but yes.
What was that? Decorative stitch?
A zigzag, or you can do it. Yeah, you can.
There's some, yeah, and there's some simple, you know, the decorative stitches that are, I know what you're saying, just, yeah. They're not real foofy, they're just kind of fun. Pin that. Okay. That'll be fine. Okay, so I don't know how you do this, but I'm going to do it my way. So
everybody does it their own way.
when the end of it is going to fold over and then fold over again, so you have like a finished end. If you try to start your machine on this side of it, it just gets all scrunchy and your thread gets all caught up. So what I usually do is come in, you know, like a couple inches and sew backwards and then take it out and start going the other way. I'll just do it.
And you know, Pam, I have a little tiny pair of scissors with a sharp little point that helps me too. When I get to the end, I take that scissor point, stick it in there, and then that holds all that in place.
Yeah.
You'll figure out all this, whatever works best for you.
So I usually start back a little bit on the tie. And just let it sew itself right off the end. It really doesn't like that ribbon. Then I want to sew it to the back. Nope, I want to sew it to the front. I haven't done this for a while, so just bear with me while I think some of this through. Did I? It may just happen, so. Dang pin. Okay, so sewing on the top, you need to catch the underneath side. So I try to stay about, a quarter of an inch in from that edge. So this is where you're catching everything. No, and I don't think, see, this is coming back to me now. Okay, when you hit the top of the dress, you should go back and forth a couple times. I'm gonna have to go back and do that. It's one thing I always forget, and then I look back at it and have to redo it. So when you hit the top of the dress where the tie is, they want that reinforced a little bit. So you're just gonna go back over it and then back forward.
Is that stuff in the instructions at all, what she just said? Okay.
I just forgot it on the other side. I'm gonna go back and do that so doesn't go undone. Okay, hopefully Pam did this correctly.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
So yeah, so there on the back side, everything's included or nested again in that bias tape. And on the front side where you sewed, you have that nice, and then these get tied. So that's the armpit of the dress. Oops, this way. Cute. Do you guys need to see me do the other one, or can we finish that at some other time? No, you're good? Are you getting bored out of your mind with this? Got any questions about it? No?
That's the last step?
Yeah. Yep, we're done. I can sit here and do that while you guys have questions and walk around and be finished with it.
Any questions?
Yes. Yes, you can.
All this material here, Janet brought it in, I have some I brought in, so help yourself. And there's a few labels. I think you got labels over
Yeah,
there.
100. I got 100 labels.
I'm gonna try to cut some pockets.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't cut some.
Okay.
Right now you can do that? Yeah. Cut some pockets? Yeah, okay. Janet's gonna cut some pockets.
You guys can come on up and help yourself to fabric or whatever else up there you think you might need. Ask questions if you've got them.
Can I say one thing about, okay, the guidelines, to make sure you guys caught that, I mean, we step 2, 3 and 4, we do either or. Step 6 and 7, skip that and go to the pockets. So I made step 8 my step 6. And then I went back and step 6 became step 7, step 7 became step 8, and then you have the last step. Does everyone kind of follow that? Yes, okay.
Are you all already on the email list? You've been getting all my emails about today? Okay. So we'll let you know.
Same that we're doing, that has to equal, it has to be done with the 1/4 and 1/2 inch. But I can't think of anything else. The measurements, I think, are the big thing. It's, the 2-inch hem, to just really stick to the instructions is probably our biggest deal.
Just stick with the instructions. And just be sure too, when you put the bias tape on, it catches.
It catches?
Yeah, because if it doesn't, it has to be redone. Ladies, regarding pockets, only one pocket on the little dresses. This is a 24-month and this is 12. Yeah. It's not on the instructions.
Okay. So the 3, like a size 3, you would have 2.
Correct.
Okay.
that a 5-inch pocket? Then do we go smaller?
No, the same.